Rebecca Martinez stared at her phone screen, the notification glowing at 2:47 a.m. Another text from her father, Robert. "Hey honey, Patricia's car broke down again. The mechanic says it's wanting $200 this time. Can you help us out? We're really struggling this month." She'd seen this message 100 times before, with different amounts, different emergencies, but always the same desperate tone. Always the same assumption that she'd say yes, and she always did. Rebecca sat up in bed, her mind automatically calculating. Rent was due in 2 weeks. She'd just made the down payment on her new house, the first thing she'd ever bought purely for herself. But family was family, right? That's what Patricia always said. "Blood is thicker than water, mija. We're all we have." 5 years ago, it started with Michael's college tuition. Her younger brother had gotten into state, but the family couldn't afford the $45,000 price tag. "Just until we get back on our feet," Robert had promised. "We'll pay you back when Michael graduates and gets a good job." Michael graduated 2 years ago. The payback conversation had never happened. 3 years ago, when Robert lost his construction job, Rebecca covered 3 months of mortgage payments, $12,000 total. "Just temporary," Patricia assured her. "Your father's pride is already wounded. Don't make him feel worse by bringing up repayment." Rebecca never brought it up again. Last year, Patricia's medical scare resulted in $8,500 in hospital bills that insurance wouldn't cover. "Family helps family," Jennifer, her older sister, had said, while contributing exactly nothing. "Besides, you're the one with the good corporate job." Rebecca's financial advisor had shown her the numbers 3 months ago. In 5 years, she'd given her family $89,000. Not loaned, given. Because every request came with the same emotional manipulation. The crisis was always urgent, always temporary, and always positioned as a test of her love for the family. She'd recognized the pattern after reading about financial abuse online. The requests only came when she'd mentioned a promotion, a bonus, or any sign of financial stability. They never asked about her own struggles, her own dreams, her own needs. She was the family ATM, reliable, accessible, and apparently inexhaustible. But the worst part wasn't the money. It was the realization that they only contacted her when they needed something. Her phone stayed quiet on her birthday unless someone needed cash. No check-ins about her life, her happiness, her challenges. Just emergencies that always required her immediate financial intervention. The group chat evidence had been the final straw. Last month, she'd glimpsed Jennifer's phone during Sunday dinner. A family group chat called Martinez Updates with everyone except Rebecca. Months of conversations, photos, plans, and inside jokes. A whole family relationship happening without her, while she funded their lifestyle from the outside. "We didn't want to bother you with every little thing," Michael had explained when she confronted him. "You're always so busy with work." Translation: "We only include you when we need your money." Rebecca typed back to her father's text, "I'll transfer $1,200 tomorrow." She always said yes, but as she hit send, something felt different this time. A cold clarity was settling in her chest, replacing the familiar knot of obligation and guilt. The warning signs had been there for years, hidden beneath her desperate need to belong, to be needed, to prove her worth through sacrifice. Financial manipulation disguised as family loyalty, emotional blackmail wrapped in expressions of love. They'd trained her to associate her value with her bank account, and she'd been a willing student. Rebecca pulled up her banking app and scrolled through 5 years of transfers to family members. Every birthday gift, every emergency, every temporary loan. The pattern was undeniable now. They took and took and took, and she gave and gave and gave, believing that someday it would buy her the love and respect she craved. But respect earned through financial desperation isn't respect at all. It's just expensive manipulation. Her phone buzzed again. Patricia this time. "Thank you, baby. You're such a blessing to this family. We're so lucky to have you." The same generic gratitude they always offered, heartfelt enough to keep her giving, vague enough to avoid any real commitment or reciprocity. Rebecca stared at the message and for the first time in 5 years felt nothing. No warm glow of being needed. No pride in being the family hero. Just the cold recognition of a transaction disguised as love. Something was shifting inside her. The daughter who'd spent years trying to buy her place at the family table was disappearing, replaced by a woman who finally understood the game being played. And she was tired of being the only one who didn't know the rules. 3 weeks before Thanksgiving, Patricia's call came right on schedule. Rebecca had just gotten home from signing the final papers on her house, the small craftsman bungalow she'd fallen in love with, despite her family's criticism that it was too expensive and unnecessary for a single woman. "Rebecca, honey, I'm so excited about Thanksgiving this year." Patricia's voice bubbled through the phone. "We're going to have the whole family, 20 people. Uncle James is bringing his new girlfriend, and the Hernandez cousins are coming down from Phoenix. It's going to be beautiful." Rebecca felt the familiar tug of inclusion. This was how it always started. The warm invitation, the promise of belonging, the fantasy of being part of something bigger than herself. "That sounds wonderful, Mom. What can I bring?" "Well, actually, that's what I wanted to talk about. You know how tight things have been since your father's hours got cut again, and Jennifer's still dealing with the divorce expenses. Michael's got those student loans." Patricia's voice took on that particular tone Rebecca knew well, the setup for a financial request disguised as a family collaboration. "What do you need, Mom?" "We were thinking, since you've got that good corporate job and you're so generous with family, maybe you could handle the catering this year. Nothing fancy, just enough for 20 people. I found this place that does the whole spread for around $800. It would mean so much to have real professional food instead of me stressing in the kitchen all day." Rebecca's stomach tightened. She'd just put every spare dollar into her house down payment. Her budget was stretched thinner than it had been in years, but the familiar guilt was already rising. 20 people counting on her, her mother's stress, the family's financial struggles that somehow always became her responsibility to solve. $800, it's a lot right now, Mom. I just bought the house and, oh honey, I know it seems like a lot, but think about it per person. That's only $40 each, and everyone else is contributing in their own way. Jennifer's bringing decorations, Michael's handling drinks, your father's setting up tables. We're all doing our part. Rebecca noticed the careful phrasing. Everyone was contributing something that cost them time or effort, not money. Somehow she was always the one whose part required opening her wallet. "I guess I could make it work," she heard herself saying. "But I have one condition." Silence. Patricia wasn't used to Rebecca having conditions. "I want to announce my house purchase at dinner. I'm really proud of this accomplishment, and I'd love to share it with the family." "Well, we'll see, honey. You know how your father feels about big announcements taking attention away from giving thanks. But let's focus on making sure everyone's fed first, okay?" The deflection was subtle but clear. Her money was welcome. Her personal triumphs were not. Rebecca spent the next 2 weeks juggling her budget, moving money from her emergency fund to cover the catering deposit. She chose the menu, coordinated delivery times, and even arranged for serving dishes and linens. By the time she was done, she'd invested not just $800, but hours of planning and emotional energy into creating the perfect family gathering. 2 days before Thanksgiving, her phone rang. Michael's name appeared on the screen, which was unusual. He typically only called when he needed something, and she'd just sent money for the catering. "Hey, Rebecca, I'm calling about Thursday. Is there a problem with the delivery time? I can call the caterer if—" "No, it's not about the food. Look, this is awkward, but the family had a discussion, and we've decided it would be better if you didn't come this year." The words hit her like cold water. "What do you mean I shouldn't come?" "You've been acting different lately. Kind of selfish, you know. Like when you bought that house without even discussing it with the family, and the way you made demands about announcements at Thanksgiving. Mom and Dad think you need some time to remember what family values really mean." Rebecca's hand began to shake. Are you banning me from Thanksgiving?" "Don't be so dramatic. We're just suggesting you take this year to reflect on what's really important. Family isn't about personal achievements, Rebecca. It's about sacrifice and putting others first." The irony was suffocating. She was being lectured about sacrifice by the brother whose college education she'd funded, about putting others first by the family who'd never put her first in anything except bill paying. "But I already paid for all the food," she managed to say. "Oh, right, yeah, we're really grateful for that. Everyone's excited about the professional catering. Can you just make sure it arrives on time? We'll handle everything else." The call ended, leaving Rebecca staring at her phone in disbelief. They wanted her money, but not her presence. Her contribution, but not her company. Her sacrifice, but not her success. She sat in her new living room, the space she'd worked so hard to afford, the achievement they'd dismissed as selfish, and felt something crack open inside her chest. Not her heart breaking, something harder and more useful. Her eyes opening. For 5 years, she'd been funding their lifestyle while being gradually excluded from their lives. The family gatherings she wasn't invited to, the group chat she wasn't included in, and now the holiday she was paying for but banned from attending. Rebecca walked to her laptop and pulled up her bank statements. Transfer after transfer to Martinez family members. 5 years of emergencies, crises, and temporary needs that had become permanent dependencies. $89,000 in documented generosity that had bought her exactly nothing except the privilege of being taken for granted. She opened a new document and began typing. Not an angry letter or an emotional plea, a strategy. If they wanted to play games with her emotions and her money, she'd show them what happens when someone who's been underestimated decides to play by different rules. The daughter who begged for scraps of affection was gone. The woman who owned her own house and made her own decisions was just getting started. Rebecca spent Wednesday morning in her kitchen, making coffee and planning her next moves with the methodical precision she used at work. The emotional storm of Tuesday's phone call had crystallized into something much more dangerous: clarity. She pulled out her laptop and created a folder labeled Family Documentation. If they wanted to treat her like an outsider while using her as a bank, she'd approach this like the business analyst she was. Time to gather data. First, she downloaded 5 years of bank statements and began highlighting every transfer to family members. The pattern was worse than she'd remembered. Not just the big emergencies, dozens of smaller transfers. $200 here for Jennifer's car repair, $150 there for Michael's textbooks, $300 for Patricia's unexpected medical copays. Death by 1,000 cuts, each small enough to seem reasonable, large enough to add up to a fortune. Next, she pulled up her phone's message history. Screenshot after screenshot of financial requests, each following the same script: urgent need, emotional appeal, immediate deadline, profuse gratitude. Never a check-in about her life, never interest in her problems, never an offer of help when she might need it. The digital evidence painted a portrait she'd been too close to see. She wasn't a family member. She was a resource being efficiently managed. Rebecca opened her laptop's recording software and called her cellular provider. I need to know if my state requires two-party consent for recording phone conversations. It didn't. Single-party consent meant she could legally record any conversation she was part of. Her phone rang at 11 a.m. Robert, right on schedule. Rebecca, honey, your mother told me about the misunderstanding with Michael. You know how your brother is. He doesn't always explain things right. Rebecca hit record. What exactly is the misunderstanding, Dad? Well, nobody's banning you from anything. We just thought maybe this year you could spend Thanksgiving reflecting on what family really means. You've been so focused on material things lately. The house, your career. Sometimes stepping back helps us remember what's important. So I can come to Thanksgiving? A pause. Well, we've already made arrangements based on you not being there. And honestly, your attitude lately has been concerning to your mother. Maybe it's better if you take some time to work on yourself. But I should still pay for the catering. Rebecca, that was your offer. You said you wanted to contribute to the family. Are you going back on your word now? The gaslighting was textbook perfect. Her conditional invitation had become her offer. Her exclusion had become her choice to work on herself. Her money was still expected, but her presence was now a problem. I'll handle the catering, Dad. Don't worry about it. After hanging up, Rebecca saved the recording and typed up a transcript. Then she did something she'd never done before. She called Aunt Susan, Patricia's sister. Rebecca, how are you, honey? I'm so excited for Thanksgiving tomorrow. Your mom says you're doing the catering. How generous. Actually, I wanted to ask you about that. How much did you contribute to the dinner? Contribute? Well, I'm bringing my famous pumpkin pie, of course. Why? I'm just trying to coordinate everything. Did anyone else contribute money for food? Susan laughed. Honey, when your mom told us you were covering the whole meal, we were all so grateful. Times are tough for everyone, but you've always been the successful one. It's sweet how you take care of the family. Rebecca felt her stomach drop. She told everyone I volunteered to pay for everything? Well, yes. She said you insisted on treating everyone because you're doing so well with your new job promotion. We all think it's wonderful how generous you are. After the call, Rebecca sat in stunned silence. Her family hadn't just excluded her while taking her money. They'd actively lied to the extended family, making her exclusions seem like her choice, while making her financial contribution seem like a generous gesture rather than an extraction. She called her cousin Maria, Uncle James's daughter. "Rebecca, I can't wait to see everyone tomorrow. Well, except you won't be there, right? Your mom said you decided to spend Thanksgiving with friends this year?" Another lie. Rebecca was supposedly choosing friends over family, not being banned while still expected to pay. What exactly did my mother tell you? That you wanted to host your own Thanksgiving this year. Something about wanting to start new traditions now that you have your own place. She seemed a little hurt, but she said she understood you're at a different stage of life. The manipulation was breathtaking in its sophistication. Patricia had rewritten the entire narrative. Rebecca wasn't being excluded. She was excluding herself. She wasn't being used for money. She was generously volunteering it. The family wasn't taking advantage of her. They were sadly accepting her decision to prioritize other relationships. Rebecca ended the call and immediately texted Susan and Maria. "Actually, there's been a misunderstanding. I was told I couldn't come to Thanksgiving, but that I should still pay for the catering. I'm not choosing to skip. I'm being excluded while being expected to fund the gathering." The responses came quickly. "Susan, what? That's not what Patricia told us at all." Maria, "Wait, they banned you but kept your money? That's messed up, cuz." Rebecca felt a surge of vindication, followed immediately by strategic calculation. The extended family had been lied to. They thought she was being generous and choosing to miss dinner. When they learned the truth, the social consequences for her parents would be severe. She spent the rest of Wednesday afternoon preparing her evidence file. Bank statements showing $89,000 in transfers, screenshots of every financial request, audio recordings of gaslighting conversations, testimony from extended family members who'd been told different stories. But the most powerful evidence was yet to come. She opened her catering company's website and navigated to the order management system. Her Thanksgiving order was confirmed for delivery between 1 and 2 p.m. Thursday. Right there on the screen was a button she'd never noticed before. Modify order. Rebecca clicked it and reviewed the cancellation policy. Orders could be canceled up to 24 hours before delivery for a full refund. After that, a 50% cancellation fee applied, but the order would still be canceled. She looked at the clock, 3:17 p.m. Wednesday. Still within the full refund window. Rebecca didn't cancel immediately. Instead, she took screenshots of the order confirmation, the delivery details, and the cancellation policy. Then she drafted a message that would go to every family member simultaneously at exactly 2 p.m. Thursday, right when they'd be expecting the food to arrive. The message sat in her drafts folder like a loaded weapon. All she had to do was hit send, but timing was everything. Too early, and they could scramble to fix the situation. Too late, and the impact would be reduced. She wanted them to experience exactly what she'd felt Tuesday night. The shock of sudden abandonment when you thought you could count on someone. The humiliation of being left empty-handed in front of people who mattered to you. The realization that someone you trusted had been planning your downfall while smiling to your face. Rebecca set an alarm for 1:45 p.m. Thursday and tried to sleep. Tomorrow, the family that had taught her that love was conditional and money was the price of belonging would learn what happens when someone finally refuses to pay. The daughter who'd been dismissed was about to become the woman they'd never forget. Thursday morning arrived gray and cold, matching Rebecca's mood perfectly. She woke at 6 a.m. without an alarm, her body humming with anticipation. Today, the family that had spent 5 years treating her like a human ATM would discover what happens when the machine stops dispensing. Rebecca made coffee and reviewed her timeline one final time. The catering order was confirmed for delivery between 1 and 2 p.m. Her family would be gathering around noon, expecting 20 people for a feast they assumed was guaranteed. The extended family members, Uncle James, the Hernandez cousins, family friends, would arrive believing Rebecca had generously volunteered to pay while choosing to celebrate elsewhere. At 11:30 a.m., Rebecca logged into the catering company's website. Her cursor hovered over the Cancel Order button. One click would set everything in motion. One click would transform her from the family's reliable victim into their unforgettable adversary. She thought about Tuesday night's phone call, Michael's casual dismissal, her father's gaslighting, her mother's lies to the extended family, 5 years of financial abuse disguised as love, culminating in being banned from the dinner she was funding. Rebecca clicked Cancel Order. The confirmation screen appeared. Order TG2847 has been successfully canceled. Refund of $847.50 will be processed within 3 to 5 business days. She took a screenshot, then opened her phone's messaging app. The group text she'd prepared was loaded and ready. Rebecca had gotten everyone's numbers from the family contact list Patricia had shared for emergency purposes. Numbers that were about to be very relevant indeed. At exactly 1:45 p.m., Rebecca hit send. The message went out to all 20 expected guests simultaneously. Hi everyone, I hope you're having a wonderful Thanksgiving. I just wanted to clarify something before you sit down to eat. On Tuesday, my family informed me that I was no longer welcome at today's dinner due to my selfish attitude about buying my own house. However, they still expected me to pay for catering for all 20 of you. I figured since I wasn't invited to enjoy the meal, you probably didn't need me to fund it either. The catering order has been canceled. I'm sure my parents have backup plans since they're such thoughtful hosts. Happy Thanksgiving to those who actually wanted me there. Rebecca attached screenshots of her bank statements showing $89,000 in family transfers, the audio file of her father's gaslighting call, and the catering cancellation confirmation. Then she turned off her phone and drove to Aunt Susan's house. Susan had texted earlier that morning. Something feels wrong about this whole situation. Want to spend Thanksgiving with someone who actually appreciates you? At 2:15 p.m., Rebecca's phone exploded back to life. 47 missed calls, 36 text messages, and 12 voicemails. She handed the phone to Susan, who read the messages aloud with increasing amazement. Robert, 2:17 p.m. Rebecca, call me right now. Patricia, 2:18 p.m. How could you do this to your family? There are 20 people here with no food. Michael, 2:19 p.m. This is insane. You're ruining Thanksgiving for everyone. Jennifer, 2:21 p.m. I can't believe you would be this vindictive. What is wrong with you? But then the tide began to turn. The extended family members who'd been lied to started responding to the group text. Uncle James, 2:23 p.m. Wait, what? Patricia told us Rebecca chose not to come. Nobody said she was banned. Maria, 2:25 p.m. Hold up. They kicked you out but kept your money? That's some serious BS. Cousin David, 2:27 p.m. Rebecca, I'm so sorry. We had no idea what really happened. This is not okay." The Hernandez cousins were particularly vocal. Carmen texted, "Girl, we are leaving. This is ridiculous. Who bans someone from Thanksgiving but takes their money?" By 2:30 p.m., according to Aunt Susan's intelligence network, the carefully orchestrated family gathering was disintegrating. Half the guests had left in disgust after learning the truth. The remaining family members were arguing loudly enough for neighbors to notice. Robert was frantically calling grocery stores, trying to find an open deli. Patricia was crying in the bathroom. The voicemails told the story of a family in complete meltdown. Patricia sobbing, "Rebecca, please, you're destroying our family. People are leaving. Your father is having chest pains. How could you be so cruel?" Robert, angry, "You ungrateful little brat. After everything we've done for you, you want to embarrass us in front of the whole family?" Michael, desperate, "Look, maybe we made a mistake, okay? Can you just fix this, please?" Jennifer, manipulative, "Mom is having a panic attack because of what you did. I hope you're happy. You've always been jealous that we're closer to each other than to you." But the most telling voicemail came from Robert at 3:45 p.m., his voice shaking with rage. "You think you're so smart, don't you? Well, congratulations. You've ruined Thanksgiving, embarrassed your mother, and torn this family apart. Don't expect any of us to ever forgive you for this." Rebecca saved every message. The threats, the guilt trips, the victim blaming. All documented evidence of exactly who her family really was when they couldn't manipulate her anymore. Susan poured them both wine. "Honey, I've never been more proud of anyone in my life. You gave them exactly what they deserved." At 4 p.m., Rebecca turned her phone back on, long enough to send one final message to the family group chat. "To everyone asking how I could do this to family, I learned from the best. You spent 5 years teaching me that family relationships are transactional, that love is conditional, and that my only value was financial. Today, I simply applied those lessons. The only difference is that when you betrayed me, you took my money and my dignity. When I responded, I only took back my money. Happy Thanksgiving." Then she blocked every Martinez family number, except Aunt Susan's. The fallout from Thanksgiving began immediately and rippled outward like an earthquake. Rebecca spent Black Friday morning reading the aftermath reports from her extended family network, each message more satisfying than the last. Cousin Maria's update came first. "Girl, you broke the internet yesterday. Uncle James is furious with your parents. He said he's never been so embarrassed in his life. They lied to everyone about what really happened, then got exposed in front of the whole family. Your dad tried to blame you for ruining Thanksgiving, and Uncle James told him that people who steal from their own children don't get to play victim." Carmen Hernandez sent a longer report. "Rebecca, I need you to know that literally everyone is on your side. When we found out the truth, half the family left immediately. The ones who stayed spent the whole afternoon arguing with your parents about their treatment of you. Your mom kept crying and saying you misunderstood, but Uncle James had screenshots of your evidence. There was no misunderstanding, they got caught." The most devastating intelligence came from Aunt Susan, who'd maintained contact with Patricia's sister network. "Honey, your mother called her book club crying yesterday. She said the family was falling apart, and she didn't understand how you could turn everyone against them." When her friend asked what happened, Patricia told the whole story. including admitting they banned you but expected you to pay. These are women who've known your mother for 20 years, and they were horrified. One of them said, "Patricia, you treated your daughter like a human credit card. What did you expect?" But the consequences extended far beyond social embarrassment. Rebecca's strategic documentation was creating legal ripples she hadn't even intended. Her cousin David, who worked in family law, called Friday afternoon. "Rebecca, I've been looking at those bank statements you shared. $89,000 over 5 years with 0 repayment? If there were any promises of repayment, this could constitute financial fraud. Have you considered consulting with an attorney?" Rebecca hadn't, but the suggestion planted a seed. She'd been so focused on emotional justice that she hadn't considered legal remedies. The social consequences were swift and brutal. Rebecca's extended family, realizing they'd been manipulated and lied to, began sharing their own stories of her parents' behavior. Uncle James revealed that Robert had borrowed $3,000 from him 2 years ago and never repaid it. The Hernandez cousins shared text screenshots showing Patricia asking them for money while claiming Rebecca was too busy with her career to help family. A pattern emerged that Rebecca had never seen from inside the bubble. Her parents had been running financial scams on multiple family members, using each person's isolation to prevent them from comparing stories. Monday brought the most satisfying consequence of all. Michael called from a number Rebecca didn't recognize since she'd blocked his usual phone. "Rebecca, I need to talk to you. I have nothing to say to you, Michael. Please, just listen. Mom and Dad are talking about disowning you officially. They want to remove you from the will and tell everyone you're no longer part of the family." Rebecca laughed, actually laughed. "Michael, they've been treating me like I'm not part of the family for years. The only difference is now it would be official. And honestly, after 5 years of funding your lives while being excluded from them, being written out of a will that probably leaves me debt anyway sounds like a favor. You don't understand. They're serious. They're telling everyone that you're mentally unstable, that the success went to your head, that you've become a different person. They're right about one thing. I have become a different person. I became someone who won't be used anymore. But what about family loyalty? What about everything we've been through together?" The question was so absurd, Rebecca almost hung up. "Michael, what exactly have we been through together? You mean when I paid for your college while you partied? When I covered Mom and Dad's bills while you contributed nothing? When you called to ban me from Thanksgiving? What shared experience are you referring to exactly?" Silence. "Here's what's going to happen," Rebecca continued. "You're going to stop calling me. You're going to stop asking me for money. You're going to stop trying to guilt me into bankrolling your lifestyle. And if Mom and Dad want to disown me, they should go ahead and make it official. It'll save me the trouble of cutting them off myself." Tuesday brought news that the financial consequences were spreading. Robert had been counting on Rebecca's usual Christmas contribution to cover the holiday expenses. Without it, and with the family's reputation in shambles, he'd had to ask his boss for an advance on his salary. Patricia's part-time job at the dental office had become extremely awkward after her coworkers heard about the Thanksgiving disaster through the local gossip network. Jennifer, surprisingly, was the first to break ranks. She sent a long email Wednesday morning. "Rebecca, I owe you an apology. I've been thinking about Thursday, and I realize how messed up the whole situation was. I was so focused on not making waves with Mom and Dad that I didn't think about how unfairly they were treating you. You've been carrying this family financially for years, and instead of being grateful, we treated you like you owed us something. I don't expect forgiveness, but I wanted you to know that some of us are starting to see clearly. Rebecca read the email twice, looking for manipulation or hidden agenda. Finding none, she sent a simple reply. Thank you for acknowledging that. It means more than you know. By Thursday, exactly 1 week after the Thanksgiving disaster, the transformation was complete. Rebecca's phone no longer buzzed with financial emergencies from family members. Her bank account, for the first time in 5 years, remained stable from month to month. Her stress levels, which she'd attributed to work, dropped dramatically once the constant family drama ended. The extended family had rallied around her with an outpouring of support that felt completely foreign. Invitations to dinners, offers of friendship, apologies for not seeing the situation sooner. For the first time in years, Rebecca felt like she had actual family relationships instead of financial hostage situations. Uncle James summed it up perfectly in a text Friday morning. Rebecca, what you did took courage that most people don't have. You exposed a toxic dynamic that was hurting everyone, and you freed yourself from people who were using you. That's not cruelty, that's self-respect. The most unexpected consequence came from the professional sphere. Rebecca's newfound confidence and reduced stress translated directly into better performance at work. Without the constant anxiety of family financial crises, she was sleeping better, thinking clearer, and contributing more meaningfully to her team. Her manager noticed, "Rebecca, I don't know what you've been doing differently lately, but keep it up. Your work has been exceptional, and your leadership in the Morrison project was exactly what we needed." 3 weeks after Thanksgiving, Rebecca received an email that made her smile. A promotion offer with a 30% salary increase and a leadership role she'd been hoping for. She celebrated alone in her new house, surrounded by the space she'd bought for herself, funded by money that was finally her own to spend. The daughter who'd begged for scraps of conditional love was gone forever. The woman who'd rebuilt her life on her own terms was just getting started. Rebecca's first Christmas morning in her own house was the quietest she'd experienced in 15 years, and it was perfect. No 6 a.m. phone calls about emergency gift money. No last-minute requests to cover someone else's holiday expenses. No walking on eggshells around family drama. Just coffee, snow falling outside her windows, and the profound peace of boundaries firmly established. Her phone had exactly 3 Christmas messages from Aunt Susan, Uncle James, and Jennifer. Simple, genuine wishes without hidden agendas or financial undertones. The contrast with previous years was stunning. Rebecca realized she'd been so conditioned to chaos that she'd forgotten what healthy relationships actually felt like. The doorbell rang at 10 a.m. Rebecca opened it to find Aunt Susan holding a casserole dish and wearing a knowing smile. "I figured you might want some company that doesn't come with strings attached. All right." They spent the morning cooking together, actually cooking, not frantically preparing, for a crowd of people who might or might not appreciate the effort. Susan shared family gossip that didn't revolve around who owed money to whom. For the first time in years, Rebecca laughed until her stomach hurt. "You know what's funny?" Susan said, slicing vegetables. Your parents keep telling people that you changed after you got successful. But I remember the old Rebecca, the one who was always anxious, always worried about disappointing someone, always exhausted from trying to make everyone happy. This version of you, this is who you were before they spent years training you to hate yourself. Rebecca paused, considering this. I don't think I even realized how much energy I was spending on managing their emotions and their finances. It was like having a part-time job I never applied for and couldn't quit. A part-time job that paid you in guilt and criticism instead of money. Susan laughed. Worst employment contract ever. That afternoon, Rebecca did something revolutionary. She called her financial advisor to discuss investment strategies for the money she was no longer sending to her family. $1,800 a month, her average monthly family contribution, could fund a very comfortable retirement if invested properly. Rebecca, if you invest $1,800 monthly for the next 20 years at a conservative 7% return, you're looking at nearly $900,000, her advisor explained. That's serious wealth-building money. The number took Rebecca's breath away. Her family's financial irresponsibility hadn't just cost her money, it had cost her an entire future. Every dollar she'd sent to cover their poor decisions was a dollar that could have been securing her own independence. New Year's Eve brought an unexpected test of her newly established boundaries. Michael called from yet another unknown number. "Rebecca, it's me. Please don't hang up. You have 30 seconds. Dad's in the hospital, heart attack. Mom asked me to call you." Rebecca felt the familiar tug of panic and obligation, the trained response to family medical emergencies. But this time, she also felt something else, clarity. Is he okay? He's stable, but the bills, insurance doesn't cover everything. Mom's asking if you could help with the deductible. There it was, not an invitation to visit, not information about his condition, not an acknowledgement of the family's behavior over the past month. A financial request disguised as a medical emergency. "Michael, I hope Dad recovers quickly, but I won't be contributing money to his medical bills." "What? Rebecca, this is serious. He could have died." "You're right, it is serious. But you know what's also serious? 5 years of financial abuse. Being banned from Thanksgiving while being expected to pay for it. Being told I'm not family when you need boundaries, but I'm family when you need money. I hope Dad gets better, but I'm not funding his health care." "You're really going to abandon family when they need you most?" "I'm going to continue the boundary enforcement that saved my sanity and my financial future. If this was really about family, Mom would have called to invite me to visit him, not to ask for money. Give him my best wishes for a speedy recovery." Rebecca hung up and waited for the guilt to overwhelm her. It didn't come. Instead, she felt something she'd never experienced in a family crisis: peace. She wasn't responsible for fixing everyone else's problems anymore. 3 days later, Aunt Susan texted, "Your dad is fine and home from the hospital. The deductible emergency was blown way out of proportion. Insurance covered almost everything, but your mom figured that this was a good opportunity to get money out of you. Thought you should know." Rebecca shook her head and smiled. Even a genuine medical scare had been weaponized into a financial manipulation attempt. She'd made the right choice. February brought the ultimate validation. A text from Jennifer that read like a completely different person had written it. "Rebecca, I need to tell you something. After you stopped sending money, Mom and Dad had to actually budget for the first time in years. They've been forced to cut unnecessary expenses, find better deals on things, and actually plan ahead instead of just calling you when they overspent. Their financial situation has actually improved because they can't rely on you as a safety net anymore. You didn't just free yourself, you forced them to become responsible adults. The irony was beautiful. Rebecca's cruelty had accidentally provided the tough love her parents needed to develop basic financial skills. Spring brought new possibilities Rebecca had never considered. With her promotion at work and her money staying in her own accounts, she had resources to pursue dreams that had been indefinitely postponed. She enrolled in the photography classes she'd always wanted to take. She planned a solo trip to Europe, something that would have been impossible when every spare dollar went to family emergencies. Most importantly, she began building relationships with people who valued her for who she was, not what she could provide. Her coworkers included her in social plans without hidden agendas. Her neighbors became friends who borrowed tools and returned them, who offered help without expecting payment. Rebecca discovered something revolutionary. When you stop accepting toxic behavior, you make space for healthy relationships to develop. On the first anniversary of Thanksgiving, Rebecca hosted her own celebration. Aunt Susan, Uncle James, Jennifer, and 3 close friends gathered around the table Rebecca had bought with money that used to go to her parents' mortgage. The conversation flowed naturally, filled with genuine interest in each other's lives, rather than veiled requests for financial assistance. As they went around the table, sharing gratitude, Rebecca realized she had more to be thankful for than ever before. Not just the obvious things, her house, her job, her financial stability, but the deeper gifts that came from refusing to accept less than she deserved. "I'm grateful for boundaries," she said when her turn came, "for learning the difference between family and people who share your DNA, for discovering that self-respect isn't selfish, it's survival." Jennifer, who'd become a genuine ally over the past year, raised her glass. To Rebecca, who taught us all that love shouldn't cost everything you have. As Rebecca looked around the table at people who were there because they wanted to be, not because they owed her money or needed something from her, she felt the deep satisfaction of a life reclaimed. The daughter who'd been dismissed had become the woman who chose her own family, set her own terms, and built her own happiness. The best revenge, she'd learned, wasn't destruction, it was construction. Building a life so authentic and fulfilling that the people who'd rejected her became irrelevant to her joy. Outside, snow was beginning to fall, and Rebecca's house, her sanctuary, her achievement, her proof that she could take care of herself, glowed with warmth and laughter. The woman who'd once begged for scraps of conditional love now had a table full of people who celebrated her simply for existing. It was exactly the life she deserved, funded by money that finally belonged to her. Surrounded by people who understood that the greatest gift you can give someone isn't financial, it's respect.